Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchid Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Good morning and namaste, everybody. We had a special request from the Vedanta Society of Houston that to give a special talk on the Song of the Sannyasin. So that's why I'm going to do it. It's, of course, my favorite poem. The history is that Swami Vivekananda, after the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, he came to New York, established the Vedanta Society of New York, and gave talks there. By 1895, summer, he was quite exhausted. Mrs. Dutcher, one of the American devotees, suggested that, let's go to a place where the Swami can have rest. And it's a tradition in New York to go away in summer. Even now it's there. I'm here because of that tradition, because the Vedanta Society of New York is actually closed in summer, July and August. So she said that I have a cottage in Thousand Island Park, which is on the St. Lawrence River. It's on the US-Canadian border. And a very beautiful place. Most of the year it is frozen over, but in summer it's spectacularly beautiful. There are cruises, you can see those hundreds and hundreds of little islands. There's one island which is tiny island, but one part of it is in USA, other part is in Canada. So and they'll take you on a tour. The captain of the tour ship, he says, the silliest questions I've ever got from my audience. And he announces the two-nation tour. And somebody asked, which are the two nations? On two sides. So Swami Vivekananda, with a small group of disciples, most of them American ladies, they went to this place and stayed in that cottage. And although it was supposed to be a vacation, some of Swami Vivekananda's choicest teachings, the best teachings, were given there to this very small group of disciples. I think he was at his soaring best there. And luckily, some notes were taken down, and those notes are available to us now as the inspired talks. That's only part of it. The lady who took down the notes, she says that at times I just had to put down my pen and listen to him. So that part is lost. But some parts are available, and it's really inspiring. I urge all of you to read the inspired talks. And at the heart of it was this poem, the Song of the Sannyasin. At one point, Swami Vivekananda, who stayed for about 6 weeks there in Thousand Island Park, if you go there, you'll see a plaque that this is where Swami Vivekananda landed. And the cottage is there. It's very beautiful. At one point, Swami Vivekananda, he rushed off to his room in the middle of the teachings. And then in one flurry of writing, he had written the Song of the Sannyasin. So it was written in a creative, in a frenzy of creativity. It's just inspired. It's a favorite among devotees, among the monks, of course. There's a little bit of history more to it. The poem was copied and sent off and published. What happened was, many decades later, Swami Nikhilananda, who was in New York in the early 1950s, he got information that this cottage, it's now ruined, nobody stays there, it's going to be sold off for firewood. So he decided to acquire it. And he acquired the cottage for $1,000. So he got it. It was completely in ruins, of course. But he decided to remodel it and build it up back and make it a retreat center. And then they found, in that place itself, there was an old carpenter, elderly gentleman, who had worked on Miss Dutcher's cottage, on that building. And he knew what it looked like during Swami Vivekananda's time. So he said, I can make it just like that again. And he started working on it with, of course, many other people. When they were working on it, remodeling it, in the rubbish, this is more than 60 years after Swami Vivekananda, or more than 50 years. Somebody found the manuscript of this poem, the original written by Swami Vivekananda, as if it was still there. It had been copied and sent to, of course, it had been published already long ago, but the original manuscript in Swami Vivekananda's hand, that was there. It's as if it was waiting there for 50 years. Of course, it's now in the archives in Belur Mutt, and it's been published also. It is a book in which you can see Swami Vivekananda's original handwriting, also the small corrections here and there which he made. So that's the history. I remember whenever people ask me, why are you a monk? What are you trying to do by this kind of a life? I send them this poem. I say, I cannot explain any better than this. You read this. Now, before we go into it, it is the song of the sannyasin. It is the ideal of sannyasa life. So is it for everybody? Yes. Anybody who wants to be a spiritual seeker, who is a spiritual seeker, for them, this is the ideal. Now, the sannyasin embodies it to, or tries to embody it to the fullest extent. We try to do that in our lives. But if you're a householder, you embody the ideal. Internally, one must be monk-like. Does one have to be a monk to be enlightened? Yes and no. No, formally no. Notice, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, the rishis of the Upanishads, many of them were householders and they're fully enlightened. Bhagavad Gita, the teacher Sri Krishna was a householder and Arjuna was a householder. And after the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna continued to be a householder. Among the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, you see the monastic disciples here, but they were equally any number of householder disciples and both men and women, and all were enlightened. Don't mix up enlightenment with sannyasa. Enlightenment, God realization is the goal. It's open for everybody, young and old, householder and monk, Indian, non-Indian, white, brown, yellow, whoever. All people have the possibility of enlightenment. It is possible. And one should, in fact, try to realize God in this very life. That's the goal for everybody. Anybody who wants to become God realized. One sadhu in Uttarakhand, I remember, he asked the group of people there who were listening to him. In Hindi, he asked, "Sannyasi ka lakshan kya hai? What is the unique characteristic of a monk?" Somebody said, "Brahma Gyan," the realization of Brahman, and the teacher said, No. वो तो सबको हो सकता है. गृहस्थ भी ब्रह्मज्ञानी है. There are many grihasthas who are brahmagyanis. So the unique characteristic of a sadhu is renunciation. Tyaga is renunciation, internal and external. I'll tell you one more story, then I'll start. There is this very funny but instructive incident. A young man came to be a monk in Belur Mutt. And Swami Madhavanandaji at that time was the general secretary. And this young man, Madhavanji asked him, "You want to be a monk?" He used to speak fast. "You want to be a monk? Shadhu have. You want to be a monk? What have you read?" And the young man said, "I've read Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna." And the Swami replied, "Kathamrita Praja Shadhu have. Go. You've read the Kathamrita, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you want to be a sadhu? No, go away." The young man looked stunned and he walked away. And then other monks around also were puzzled. They said, "What's wrong? He has read the Kathamrita. Why can't he be a sadhu?" And he said, "Well, what do you have to read to be a sadhu?" So preliminary reading. And Swami Madhavanji said, "Of course you have to read Swami Vivekananda, the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, if you want to be a monk." Then another monk asked, was puzzled. "Oh, I see. To be a monk, you have to read Vivekananda. But then what will happen if you read the Kathamrita?" And Madhavanji said, "Oh, Kathamrita, Gospel, if you read that, you will realize God." That's what will happen. Which means there's a particular unique characteristic of Vivekananda's teachings here, especially Song of the Sannyasin. I know a number of monks who recite this daily. It's been translated into Hindi, Bengali, many languages. Some beautiful translations are available, but English was the original language, the language in which Swami Vivekananda composed it. I have given this talk earlier in Hindi, never in English, what I'm going to do today. All right, let's start. It's in 13 stanzas. We obviously will not cover all of it. We'll do some of it. The song of the Sannyasin. Wake up the note, the song that had its birth, far off where worldly taint could never reach, in mountain caves and glades of forest deep, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or fame could ever dare to break, where rolled the stream of knowledge, truth, and bliss that follows both. Sing high that note, sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. So wake up the note. That means this is inspiration. You have to make an effort for it. It will not come naturally. It's like downloading. That's why you need the teaching. You need the inspiration. You need the teacher. You need this ideal life to see in front of you, to hear the teachings from the Gita, the Upanishads. Then only that note means that high ideal is awakened within us. The song that had its birth far off, where worldly taint could never reach. Far off physically, of course. And he says, in mountain caves and forests and glades of forest deep. So often the Upanishads are called the forest philosophy, Aranyaka, the Brihadaranyaka, the forest philosophy. So these rishis would retreat far from human habitation, from towns and villages, and live in forests and mountains so that they would have seclusion and time to think, occasion to think and meditate deeply. It's the same thing even now. The leading scientific institute, research institute in the world, the Institute of Advanced Studies in Princeton, where Einstein was there, Gödel was there, von Neumann was there, I think Oppenheimer was there. And that's still the leading institute. It's full of the cutting edge work in physics and theoretical science, actually, physics, mathematics, and other disciplines. One prime rule there is quiet. So if you go there, it's a simple place. It's nothing, no big laboratories, no hi-fi tech. Just all the work is being done inside the head. So if you go in there, for example, you're allowed to look at the downstairs, but you cannot go upstairs. Upstairs, there's nothing. It's just offices and people sitting there thinking. That's where the work is going on, but you cannot make a sound. That's the prime rule. Yeah. So, far off in forests and mountain caves, it's thanks to Swami Vivekananda that we have all this now. Swami Vivekananda said one of the goals of his life was which was limited to a few scholars and a few monks. It was hands of some scholars and monks. I shall scatter it worldwide. That which was in the caves and forests, I shall bring it. The philosophy which was in the caves and the forests, I shall bring it to the cities. So that's why we have it here. We're all discussing it now. It is, and it's the winds of this age. It's the theme of this age we live in. The democratization of everything, of knowledge, especially opportunity, knowledge, equality for everybody. So this Vedanta also must be for everybody, and that's what Swami Vivekananda did. But there's no doubt that this is a philosophy of the forest, a philosophy of the mountains. Even now you can see. I remember staying in high Himalayas. There it begins to seem true after some time that the world is false. In the ever-changing mists and the sunlight and the light rain and the cold winds and the absolute darkness of the night and solitude day after day, world fades away from you. And then you can see how the rishis could so boldly proclaim the world is false. For them, from that point of view, it seems very easy to say that it's like a dream. Swami Vivekananda says, by the world forgotten and the world forgetting. Anybody who's become a monk, so I'll refer to a monk's experience. It's good to listen to it. It's actually good to listen to that. Anybody who's become a monk will realize immediately the point of those words, the force of those words. By the world forgotten and the world forgetting. You know, when a monk goes off, leaving family and familiar circumstances, and goes up to the monastery, the forest, or the mountain, One will think, oh, he has forgotten the world. No, it is just the opposite. The world forgets you very fast. Once you drop out of the mainstream of life, maybe your parents will remember you. The parents will. But even your brothers and sisters and friends, they have their lives. They're in the fast-moving life. They're going to get to finish their education, get jobs, and get married and have children. And all of samsara overtakes them very fast. And so somebody who has disappeared years ago is forgotten very fast because life moves. It is the monk from whom the world drains away slowly in memory, because you are in solitude, you're sort of frozen in that place. So by the world forgotten and the world forgetting, that is the experience of the monk who's newly become a monk. What is the characteristic of these places? So far off, not just physically, but far off from the worldly paradigm. It says, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or fame. What is it that drives the world? Lust, sensuous pleasure, wealth, acquisition, more money, more land and property and gadgets, fame, fame in the sense of appreciation, family members appreciating me, and then people in my job, in my profession appreciating me, Facebook friends expanding without limit. The whole mirage of social media is now there. And so my virtual presence, a lot of people I see, and especially in India, I saw the intensity of the hold that social media has on people. Lots of people would rush up to me, not for Vedanta, not so much for Vedanta. Maharaj, can I take a selfie with you? I said, who will look at those selfies? Then somebody said, not for themselves. It will immediately go on social media. Instagram, Twitter, and things like that. Facebook. So fame has this wide expanse. More and more and more. I should be known. What's wrong with this? Vedanta tells us our real nature is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is infinite being, beyond any possibility of death. All beings in this world are nothing other than that Sat, pure being, which is appearing in this entire universe. You are that. Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi, when we see in Chandogya Upanishad, Tat, that. What is that? Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter itself, you will see. Sadeva Saumya Idamagrase. The teacher says, my dear child, at the beginning, this entire manifested universe was Sat, pure being. That Sat you are. You can imagine the disciple, Shwetaketu. This is a typical teenager. The way he's described is a typical modern teenager, American teenager, He's quite arrogant about his learning and capacities, his achievements. So you say, there was an ultimate being at the beginning of this universe, before this manifested universe arose. You can see the teenager going, so? Rolling his eyes. Here goes the old man again. And then the next teaching is you can't say so to that. You can't shrug it off. Tattvamasi, that ultimate reality you are. Then you can't say so, because you're talking about you now. Not knowing that I am that ultimate reality, I am that immortal being, I think I am this little person. Being this little person, I must somehow continue to exist. I must continue to live, extend the life of this little body, mortal body. Not only that instinct, that deep-rooted intuition is there that I am infinite, that I am not this limited body born at that time, aging fast, and I know it's going to die soon. It's cut off in time. It was born and it will die. It's cut off in space. I'm only this much. No matter if I am worried, I'm so obese. No matter, most obese person is also little compared to the whole world. Not knowing my real nature, I tend to try to become infinite in this world itself by trying to live longer and acquire more wealth, more property, more houses, more gadgets, more possessions. Especially in this country, you have A unique phenomenon, storage. So when all your stuff overflows house, it goes into garage. When garage, no space is there for car, it goes into storage. What will happen to all that? There are big, big houses. I said, who lives there? Junk lives there. Nobody will ever use any of that, which is their big house, and you have to pay money to keep it there. Why? I want to be infinite. Right? If you say it that way, it sounds silly. But what drives us to acquire more and more and more? It's an unthinking urge. So that is not knowing that I am infinite being, wealth, more. I'm trying to expand in this limited world, trying to express the infinite through the finite. Not knowing that I am Ananda, all fulfillment. I try to seek, I go around with a begging bowl in hand to the world, give me little happiness, give me little happiness. Not knowing that I am a billionaire, I'm going around asking for a few cents, a few dollars here and there, like a beggar. Give me a little happiness. Where am I going? Sense pleasures. From eating a cookie to sexual pleasure, all of that, from the most crudest kind of pleasure to the most refined kind of pleasure. That is, you can go to art and classical music performance. Pleasure from the world. Make me happy. Make me happy. But Vedanta says all happiness is you. When we say within you, you are it. Vedanta says that that's the tragedy and also the comedy of life. What life is giving back to you, it's borrowing from you and giving back to you. It's like, I want $1, I'm poor. You're a billionaire. Somebody takes money from your account and gives it back to you. And you're grateful. This is where I will get pleasure. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of the dog which was chewing a bone. And the dry bone cut its own lip, the dog's lip. And the blood came out. And the dog tasted its own blood and said, what a tasty bone. And then carefully buried that bone. And whenever it wanted pleasure, the tasting, something tasty to eat, it would go and dig out that bone and chew that old bone. And then again, blood would come out of its own lip. And you taste that. Very tasty. That's what we are doing whenever we want pleasure. Not knowing we are Ananda Swarupa, we look for satisfying, getting pleasure from sensual pleasures. And fame is khyati, expression. I'm just stretching it a little bit. Chit, you are shining forth as this universe. Your khyati, that means shining forth as this universe. Not knowing that I want to be famous as this little being. This little person, I want to let this little person become famous and appreciated and recognized and praised. So see, lust or wealth or fame, this comes from not knowing that I am Ananda. Lust comes from not knowing that. The urge for acquisition and wealth comes from not knowing that I am Sat. And fame comes from not knowing that I am Chit, infinite radiance. You shining, everything else shines. By your light, everything here is lit up. So you see, this is connected to Sat Chit Ananda. Sri Ramakrishna says these three. He says, spiritual life, these are the major obstacles to spiritual life. He says, Kam, Kanchan, Nam Josh. The lust, wealth, and the desire for name and fame, he would say, Nam Josh. And then he says here, notice, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or fame could ever dare to break. Now, this is the condition of actually becoming a monk. Swami Ashokananda, I remember, before I became a monk, I was reading this book where it gave a crucial criterion to test our own mind. Am I ready to become a monk or not? When should you renounce? That was the name of the chapter. Short book. Basics of spiritual life, something like that. Swami Ashokananda. And that chapter said, if in the midst of the world your mind is disturbed, or your mind is pulled to this and that, or upset, and away from the world, your mind is not disturbed. If you're in an ashram or in a mountain cave or wherever you are, then you are fit for sannyasa. There are those whom, if you take them away from the world, they will keep hankering, that sigh for, sit in the ashram 1 or 2 days, very nice. And then after that, I wish, it's so boring here. I wish I had internet, I had friends, I had a party. And then you cannot become a monk. That person cannot become a monk. That person should stay in the world and do sadhana, and do spiritual sadhana. And there might be a rare person, it might be, that who remaining in the world is completely undisturbed by the world. So that person need not become a monk. So one person should not, the other person need not. One who cannot take to a life of actual physical renunciation, is disturbed by that, should not. It's not necessary. The sadhus in Uttarakhand, they know in the Himalayas. One funny thing they told me was, I'll tell you in Hindi and then translate. In Dehati, like rural Hindi, that's Dehati, they would say, ये सेठ लोग आते हैं ना, फार्म हाउस खरीदते हैं. These rich people come from the cities, Mumbai and Delhi, and they buy farmhouses in the mountains. And they say, I will come here and I will relax. It's so beautiful and peace and quiet. I'll write a book or I'll do meditation. I will leave. Enough of that. Bombay, Delhi. And then they say, 15 दिन के बाद मन उब जाता है. After 2 weeks, they get bored and they start missing the fast life of the cities. Unless one has tried that absolute isolation, one will see that it's not easy. There's a reason why solitary imprisonment is the worst punishment. Somebody wrote that, who went through solitary imprisonment, that soon you start to go crazy. And then what happens? The sadhus, they're very humorous. They said that the caretaker and his family lives there after that. They hire somebody from the village that, look, dekhbhal karna, take care of this. We will come back. And the Sethji says, the rich person says, I will come back every year. I will come back and spend 1 or 2 months in meditation. Never comes back. So this is the criterion. No sigh for lust. And I have become a monk, but I'm missing it, the worldly life. Then you should not become a monk. Gita, Sri Krishna says that mithyachara sauchyate. This is called hypocrisy. Sitting quietly and thinking about worldly objects in the mind. Then don't do that. Then go out into the world and live a life of moral decency and then do your sadhana. That's also fine. But this is for the person who is in between. There are persons, as I said, rare persons who will not be disturbed in the middle of the world also. So that well-known stories there, Janaka and Shukadeva. The Shukadeva, the great renouncing monk, he had only one loincloth and one change of clothes, means one more loincloth and nothing else in the world. And he comes and sits with the Emperor Janaka in the capital, in the palace, and they're discussing Advaita Vedanta. And then the story comes, the story goes that the news comes, Emperor, the city is on fire. And then Shukadeva, like an arrow, he rushes away, runs away. After some time, he comes back panting. And Janaka said, "Oh sage, where did you go?" He comes back panting and says, he's relaxed. He says, "Oh, it's all right. I thought I had washed my loincloth and kept it on the branch of a tree. I was worried it would get burnt. No, that part there's no fire in that part, so it is safe." And Janaka smiles and says, "Mithilayam pradigdhayam name dahati kinchana." When if the entire city of Mithila would be burned down, suppose, nothing of mine is burned down. Now remember, he's not like Nero fiddling while Rome burns. He's doing everything that has to be done to take care. But at the same time, he's completely poised. It's not like my capital city is being burned down. Oh God, what will happen? No, it's completely poised. In the midst of tremendous samsara, emperor, he's quiet, he's calm and peaceful. Now you see, it's a story, just a parable to show that physically I've renounced everything, but that last thing also, all my power of attachment is there on that one thing. So, where rolled the stream of knowledge, truth, and bliss that follows both. Knowledge, truth, knowledge, chit, truth, sat, bliss, ananda. So he compares it to a rolling river. Uh, Knowledge, truth, and bliss, sat, chit, ananda. But notice carefully the language there. Sat, chit, and ananda that follows both. Normally, our formulation is Satchidananda. So you should have said, the river of Satchidananda is flowing there. But he says, no, the river is Sat Chit, limitless being, limitless awareness. That is what you are. You realize that. And the realization, the very limitlessness of being and awareness, being awareness, that itself is Ananda. I'll just point it out and move on. Taittiriya Upanishad says, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahma, the ultimate reality, is limitless existence, limitless awareness. But where is Ananda? You say bliss. Later on, Taittiriya Upanishad will say Ananda. But in that formulation, in that definition, Sat, Chit, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, limitlessness. That limitlessness is itself Ananda. When you have that limit, when you realize you are that limitless, ever existent, ever shining Brahman, then in the mind will be experienced an unimpeded joy or bliss. Our Chandogya Upanishad says, Yo vai bhuma tat sukham nalpe sukham asti. That which is the vast, that alone is happiness. There is no happiness in the limited. One young man became a monk. His friends asked him, why are you giving up everything? What do you want? And he said, I am giving up everything because I want everything. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham. Not just limited this much, everything. So I must empty myself out. And then sing high that note, sannyasi bold. So this, you must hold on to it. I've become a monk, I've renounced everything, and now I'm just relaxing, passing my days. No, one must be immersed in this ideal. Say Om Tat Sat Om. So these are the designations of Brahman. Om means Brahman. Tat means Brahman. That. Sat means Brahman. Being, existence, truth, reality. Sat means being, existence, truth, reality without limit. That is Brahman. Tat is the designation, that. So listen, so just see that these are all very impersonal. It doesn't ask whether you are a man or a woman or any of the other 22 genders recognized in New York State. And as many more genders as you would care to invent. Doesn't ask that. Anything, whatever you define yourself as. It doesn't matter whether you are white or brown or black or Asian, whatever. It doesn't even ask whether you're human. Any living being. So that is, these designations are all impersonal. It doesn't say Vishnu, Shiva, Devi, Allah, Father in heaven, Jehovah. No, that. That. It's like saying X variable. You can put in whatever you like, but it's impersonal, completely open. That. Or Om. Om sounds at least a little bit, okay, it's related to Hinduism. Though it's a common holy sound. If you go to the Gurdwara next door, you will find Ek Omkar. The ultimate reality is one Om. But if you look at the Mandukya, the highest interpretation of Om, it's very impersonal again. Our waking state, waker and waking world, dream state, dreamer and the dream world, and deep sleep state. The deep sleeper and the deep sleep world means the fused blankness, subject-object becoming one. All of them appear and disappear in one consciousness, which you are. That is the Turiya, the fourth. Waker first, dreamer second, and deep sleeper third, fourth Turiya. The fourth is not something separate. It's the one to which these three are appearing. So what's the relation with Om? Now you designate waker and waking world with A, dreamer and dream world with U, deep sleep with And the silence after A, U, is Om. And the silence after that is Turiya. It's just See how impersonal it is. Who is not waking, dreaming, deep sleep? Does it have anything to do with whether you are Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian? Does it have anything to do with whether theist, atheist, Buddhist, whatever you are? Everybody wakes, dreams, sleeps, and everybody is consciousness. Om Tat Sat Om. Strike off thy fetters, bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or darker baser ore, love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throng. No, slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free. For fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then off with them, sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. The sannyasi is first and foremost somebody who's free of the bondages of samsara. And the bondages may be good ones or bad ones. See, human beings progress through stages. One is an instinctive stage, the lowest, almost an animalistic stage, where I am motivated by pleasure. I am motivated by ambition, greed, or even anger. And I want what I want, I will do it. Just now. Without regard for consequences. I know the consequences will be bad, but I can't resist. I'm so greedy, so desirous, so angry that I will go ahead and do it. Whether it is robbing, becoming addicted to something, going and shooting somebody, all of that is a failure of our ability to control ourselves. Nobody does that out of, I'm trying to improve myself, so I'll go and shoot so many people. I'm trying to improve myself, so I'll go and rob a bank. No, it's because I cannot control myself anymore. The urges are so powerful. This is called in Sanskrit pamara. And these are bondages. The person who is in the middle of that, who is caught by that, that person knows I am bound. If I could get rid of these urges, I would be happy. Every addict knows this. I am free, so I'm drinking myself to a stupor. No, nobody feels that. Those who are caught, that's why one of the most popular, Alcoholics Anonymous. So once in Hollywood, Vedanta Society there, I suddenly saw one day the parking lot was full. I thought, which lecture is this so popular? Then they said, no, this is the most popular. When the parking lot is full, you know that Alcoholics Anonymous meeting is going on. But why? They are not serving drinks out there. They're telling you not to drink. That means the persons who are there, they want to be free of this. So that is the darker, baser ore. The iron chain which is binding us. It's terrible. It's horrible. I want to be free. I'm struggling with that. That's one. How do you become free of that? Addiction overcome by self-control, anger by peace, desire by control of the senses, and so on. So badness is overcome by goodness. I will not do these things because I will not be an addict. I will not waste my money because it is preventing me from doing my duty to my family. Now see how duty is a saving thing. A family, job, society, it saves. You think it's an obstacle in spiritual life? No, no, no. If I have a job, somebody is paying me money, you see, it gives structure to my life. I have to get up early in the morning. I have to turn up even if I feel sick because I lose the job otherwise. They are paying me for it, so I have to give back service in return. If you have a family, you have to take care of it until the children grow up. It's like a 20-year commitment. It's a big, big struggle. How much trouble you put up with? Now, you may say, why? Then what good is it? It saves us from a lot of nonsense. If you are freed from all of that and let go, do whatever you like. A great Mahatma, you do. Very soon you will find you wasting your time and then sinking back, even ethically, morally. We used to grumble in the ashram, so much work is there. And the senior Swamis, they know. It's all right, no work, go. Do what you like. Swami Turiyanandaji in Benares, one brahmachari, there's a hospital, lot of work is there. So one brahmachari, young novice, I did not like all this so much work, no time for meditation and study. I want solitude and meditation. Swami Turiyananda finally said, all right, go and stay in that room. We will send food to you. And only one thing, don't come out. Do sadhana. As much as you like. We will take care of you. You don't have to do anything. So happily the brahmachari went on. 7 days later, Swami Turiyananda asked, what about him? What happened to him? What's going on? What news? He said, oh, Maharaj, he's talking with the plant outside his window. গাছের সঙ্গে কথা বলে. So all right, let him out now. I know one young monk who said, I want peace. I don't like all this work in the ashram. I gave him a little bit of the same medicine. All right, go and stay in your room. I didn't even say you have to be caught up in your room. Just I said, don't do any work. You do your sadhana studying. No problem. I will not tell Bade Maharaj. I will not tell you. Take care of it. Young brahmachari. After 3 days, he came and gave me some work. You will find that this is a good person. So he honestly realizes I'm not making progress in spiritual life. So structure is necessary. That is, but to be a sannyasin, one must go beyond that also. That is the golden chain. Duty is the golden chain. Structure in samsara is the golden chain. It helps you, prevents you from sinking below. So the lowest category is called pamara, horrible life. But higher than that is called dharmika vishayi. Dharmika vishayi means worldly person, but within the realms of dharma. And luckily, society is composed of such people who want worldly things, who want exactly what the addict wants, who want exactly what the desirous person wants, who are angry like the hateful person. But these people, dharmika vishayi, they think of themselves as decent people, good people, and they set limits for themselves. My consumption, yes, I want to enjoy, but within this limit. Yes, I feel angry at that person, but I won't shoot him. I won't even punch. I might say a harsh word. So this is dharmika vishay. Within the limits of good, they try to build up their lives. And that is how spiritual progress also. That's essential. Otherwise, one cannot become spiritual. But that sannyasi higher than that. The goal is higher than this. It's not enough to be a good person in samsara. Why not? Just be a good person, do your duty. It'll all come to an end. Anityatva. And it is unfulfilling. If it comes to an end at the moment, I'm completely fulfilled, I don't want anything more. That never happens. So they want something higher. There is something higher. The search for fulfillment is there. So that's why he says, bonds that bind thee down of shining gold or darker baser ore, love, hate, both are bonds, he says. See, this is a much higher attitude. So this is pamara, dharmika vishayi, mumukshu. Mumukshu is the one who is searching for freedom. Not bad, but not even the good. I want something beyond. And Shankaracharya sings, na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha, chidananda rupa, shivoham, shivoham. That is higher than the mumukshu. That is called siddha, enlightened one, who does not want anything anymore. We already attained the infinite. But before that, one wants spiritual life, God realization, enlightenment, freedom from samsara. You're searching for moksha. Below that, one does not want those things. One wants a good life here and hopefully go to heaven afterwards. So that is dharmika vishayi. Below that, not even I cannot wait for, put restraints on myself. I must have my next whiskey or drug shot or whatever it is, my addiction, or give way to my anger and hatred right now. That is pamara, lowest. So pamara, dharmika vishayi, mumukshu, siddha. The source for this is Vichar Sagar, Nischal Dasji. 4 levels. This song of Sannyasin is made for whom? Mumukshu. The mumukshu who can give up samsara. That person primarily. Secondarily, the mumukshu who cannot give up samsara yet, but imbibes the spirit of this. Love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throng. Why should we give up? No, slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free. If I am a bad person, I think, you see, tamas is often similar to sattva guna. Tamas says, I am free. I do whatever I like. You are a slave at the hands of your own impulses, lowest of the low, pamara. What your mind makes you do that. What's wrong with that? But the mind is full of nasty stuff. Um, Alan D. Botton, in this book, um, he's a wonderful writer on how we can learn from philosophy, mostly the Western philosophy, basically. He says the tragedy of our age is this age was built on a movement called Romanticism. Romanticism says feelings are good. So whatever we feel, that must be right. And so follow your feeling. The problem is feelings come and change all the time. And my feelings may not be the feelings of other people. And today my feelings are like this, tomorrow like something else. So follow your heart, following your feelings may sound like a very good advice, and that's what this age is built upon. But it leads to disaster, it leads to unhappiness. Swami Vivekananda himself says, in a conflict between heart and head, always follow the heart. But that's the purified heart. There must be some test. What is the test? That which is selfish is untruth. That which is selfless or unselfish is truth. That which weakens is poison. That which strengthens is truth. That which divides is falsehood. That which unites is truth. These are tests. My mind is telling me feelings are there, but is it unselfish or selfish? Is it strengthening me or weakening me? These are tests to be applied. No slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free. Fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then off with them, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. This is Tyaga, renunciation of everything, every possible support in life. Depending only on God. I remember there was this sadhu in our ashram in Haridwar, long before my time. The interesting story I heard about him. People were told, you give pranami to sadhus, some money as a gift you give to monks. People were told not to give him a gift, any money, because the moment you give him money, what he will do is, he will take that money and start walking and go to the railway station in Haridwar. And that in those days, the ticket seller at the counter, they knew him. He would just trust the money. He wouldn't even have to say anything. Trust the money there. And with that money, whatever ticket they could buy, which is the longest duration train ticket, they would buy and give it to him. And he would get on that train. Who knows where it is going? Then he will go there, wherever it takes him. And from there, he will walk back, begging for his food, sleeping under the tree, depending on God, he will walk back to Haridwar. North, south, east, west, doesn't matter. So they tried not to give him money, because then next 6 months, 8 months, you won't see this person anymore. Third, let darkness go, will-o' the wisp that leads with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death, and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquer self. Know this, and never yield, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Let darkness go. What is darkness? The promise that something in this world is going to fulfill me. More money, relationships, children, job, artistic endeavors, scientific endeavors. Something in this world is going to fulfill me. Nothing is. Temporarily, they will give you some pleasure, some fulfillment, but ultimately it's not enough. It's not enough. Only one thing will fulfill you, which is spiritual life. Whatever way you define it. It doesn't have to be Advaita, it doesn't have to be a monk. It could be in any religion. But the spiritual, at the core of spiritual life, the promise is, here is fulfillment. Ultimate fulfillment lies here. Try everything in life, grow in life, and come here. This will give you fulfillment. And proof, look at the lives of the saints. Not one of them says, well, I have got God, I've become enlightened, I've got my beloved Lord, bhakti, jnana, whatever. I've attained nirvikalpa samadhi. Now let me look at my to-do list. What more remains? Those things I have to do. No. It's one solution for all problems. One answer to all questions. And God realization. The will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-the-wisp is, in Europe, at night when you would travel in those days, before modern technology. So in the mist, you would see like a glimmering light. And people might think, oh, what's there? And follow the light, and they would land up in a bog or a marsh, and then they would die. So that was called the will-o'-the-wisp. Now, if you see in an English dictionary, it will mean some kind of unrealistic goal or deceiving goal, deceiving aim of life, below the wisp. So it is glimmering before us that I want. It's like the cattle which are used, like a buffalo which is used to grind the oil. They put some straw in front, and the buffalo tries to eat that, moves around, and the oil is it's yoked. So the machine works. Similarly, some incentive life provides to us, and we think if we follow that, we will get fulfillment. Robert Wright, he has written a book, Why Buddhism is True. And there he says most of the things that spirituality says, Buddhism and other spiritual traditions, I see it makes perfect sense from a Darwinian evolutionary perspective. Nature puts before us certain goals and seems to promise us you'll be happy if you fulfill these goals. But the happiness is never what we expect. It's far less than what we expect. He calls it the hedonistic trap. And he says this is logical. Because suppose, cookie, very nice, eat it. And you see, advertisement makes it even worse. Anybody who's eating the cookie, a big smile, song, they start dancing, and so many things. Like it's ecstasy. They go into ecstasy if they eat a cookie. I remember Swami Atmarupanji, who was here, he was telling us once in a talk, he was saying, he said, no. No food should make you so happy. You'll sing and dance and jump around with joy. There is no food which is all that good. So nature gives you that promise that you'll be very happy. For example, eat a cookie. Why does nature do that? It has created a taste for that because sugar is necessary for you to survive as a functioning um, biological entity, living being in this world. Why will it not give you a complete, intense fulfillment? Because if it does, then you will not eat again. Nature wants you to eat. Nature wants you to reproduce. Nature wants you to propagate. Nature wants you to live. Because that's the whole purpose of nature. And so keeps on promising you little more happiness. More. Do it again, you will get more happiness. But I did not. Once again, you please try. So you keep on trying. Robert Wright says hedonistic trap. And it's perfectly logical from a natural point of view, but it's no good for us as conscious, sentient beings. What do? Sannyasi takes the radical way. Let go thy hold, he says. Later on, there's one verse. Yes. No, let go thy hold, sannyasi bold. Next one. He says, thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Then cease, lament, let go thy hold, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. But where are we bound? Actually, we are not bound. We are holding on to it. That story of a monk who, disciple goes to a guru and teach me how to be free, set me free. And the guru told him, no, well, I will teach you, but first you sweep the cave, go and beg for food from the village, start serving the guru. The disciple thought, all right, I have to do this. He kept on doing. Once in a while, he would remind, Guru, you have not taught me anything so far. But the guru is making him work, but not teaching him anything. After a month, the disciple gave an ultimatum that either you teach me, set me free, or I will go away and go to some other guru. You're just exploiting me, making me work. The guru said, okay. Tomorrow in the morning you come, take a bath, come, I will show you how to be free. So next morning the disciple came out, today he will show me how to be free. He went up to the cave There's a big old tree outside the cave, and he saw the guru standing there, hugging the cave with all his might, the tree with all his might, and shouting, "Set me free! Set me free!" And the disciple said, "Just let go." The guru said, "Precisely. Let go thy hold, sannyasi boy." It sounds easy, but it's not all that easy. There's one old Hindi song I remember when we were kids, Bollywood movie song. The lines were very striking. कहीं कोई जंजीर नहीं फिर भी बंधे हुए हैं सब. There are no chains in sight, and yet everybody is tied. And tied here, the insight of Vedanta is actually we are not tied. Who can tie you? You are Brahman. You are infinite existence, consciousness, bliss. But you are holding on to it. If I hold on, see, I hold on to this table tightly. I think I am holding on to the table, but I am also bound because I can't go anywhere now. I'm stuck. Hold on to property, to people, to habits, to conceptions. Sometimes people hold on to misery, my suffering. You tell them, no, you can go beyond suffering. You are not in suffering. They will become your enemy. No, because you're trying to take my suffering away from me. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquers self. Know this and never yield, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat. This was the spirit of Vivekananda. Never yield. See, mistakes will happen. In samsara also we have made so many mistakes. In spiritual lives we will make mistakes. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. No problem at all. Keep going. There's a saying among the sadhakas, sadhus there. Banat banat banjai. You're moving ahead slowly. You think nothing much is happening. And one day it's there. You have reached the goal. One thing one must do is keep moving. One thing one must not do is give up. There's no point in giving up. If any of this is true, if you give up, you'll have to come back to it again. If not in this life, some other lifetime. And it's not our choice. We will be driven to it. There's a saying, in Hindi they say, that Ishwar theka leke rakha hai. God has taken the contract for your God realization. So God is in charge of your spiritual life, and God will make sure that we become enlightened in this life or the next. Only thing is, God's time is very slow. Swami Vivekananda, half jokingly, he said, take your time. No hurry. Vedanta is very patient. It depends on the person. Swami Turiyanandaji was there in San Francisco. After he left for India, Swami Trigunatitananda came and took over the Vedanta Society in San Francisco. But the two personalities were very, very different. Swami Turiyananda was a great Vedantin, Aham Brahmasmi. But as far as the world is concerned, it's the will of the mother, which is true, which is the highest truth. As the mother wills, I'm perfectly all right with it. Trigunatitananda was just the opposite. An American disciple writes, the new Swami, Trigunatitananda, does not believe in leaving it to the mother. Up and doing, always up and doing. And he used to put in the old temple which he built. This is the oldest Hindu temple in the West, 1905 in San Francisco. He put slogans in those days, positive psychology. Do or die, and then below, but you will not die. One American disciple had written a complaining letter to him that he is too harsh, scolding so much and forcing so much. And he wrote back, that letter is so stirring, says, Dear madam, and I understand your concern, but you have taken refuge in me. You have become my disciple. Now it is my responsibility to make sure you realize God in this birth. I shall drag you willy-nilly to the ocean, the shores of the ocean of immortality, and throw you in there. If in the process I break your bones, I care not. What a guru. Very difficult to live with such a guru, but he will make sure that you realize God in this very life. But the thing is, it's a very crushing process, very difficult. One sadhu, one of the greatest sadhus I have seen, a wandering monk in the north of India who has passed away now. He told me a story about his initial training under his guru. He was a brahmachari, a novice. Early in the morning, he has to bring something to his guru. He's going to the guru's room, and they wear those wooden clogs, khadam. And they make sound. You can't walk on them without making sound. So clack, clack, clack sound is making. The guru snapped at him and said, "Can't you walk more consciously? Don't make what a racket you are making." Which is very unfair. You can't walk on those. First of all, you say you walk on that, and then you say, "Can't, don't make a sound." And then to add insult to injury, um, he, or injury to insult, which is the phrase? Injury to insult. Insult to injury. Um, Another brahmachari who was sleeping, it was 7:30 in the morning, in the next room, the guru goes to him and says, "Baba, utho, chai piyoge? Bed tea. My child, get up. Do you want some tea?" So this brahmachari, the sadhu told us, I was furious. Here I am slogging away since early, before sunrise, doing all the duties of the ashram, and this fellow is sleeping. I can even hear him snoring. And in front of the guru, who's scolding me for the tiniest of things, which is so unjust. And here in front of him, such great injustice. This fellow is sleeping. And Guru says, "Baba, take some bed tea." So the Guru understood what was in my mind. And he looked at me suddenly. When I was thinking those things, looked at me suddenly and said, "Tumhara hoga, isliye bolte hain. You will realize God in this life. That's why I'm telling you all this. What about him? Not in this life. So he only deserves affection. He has tried. That is good enough in this life. That's it. This is the limit of his achievement in this life. And you will achieve in this life. You will attain God realization in this life." And this is the same story Swami Nirvanananda, Swami Brahmananda Sevak. So he used to get harsh scoldings from Swami Brahmananda. But then he was told that you will become enlightened in this life. That is why I scold you. So he says, never yield, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. All right. We have run out of time. Let me read the last one. Let me read the 11th one. Come to 11. Have thou no home? Come to that one, 11th one. I have memories of this. Once in the Himalayas, I was cut off from the cottage where I lived. I had gone by a bus from Gangotri down to Harshil, about 26 kilometers, and to meet some sadhu. And there was one bus in the afternoon which would come and go with the pilgrims to Gangotri. So I thought I will catch that bus. So I went and sat near the bus stop. Bus stop means sit under a tree. There is a road, you sit on the tree, bus will come and stop there. No bus is coming. It's getting closer to sunset, and I'm 26 kilometers away from the only place where I can sleep. And so finally I decided what is to be done. I can't help it. I have to start walking. I went and begged for food in one place. I slept under a tree. And then this thing came to my mind, this thing, that have thou no home? What home can hold thee, friend? Actually recited this while walking. The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed, and food what chance may bring, well cooked or ill, judge not. No food or drink can taint that noble self which knows itself. Like rolling river free, thou ever be, sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. What about wild? I knew it would get dark very soon. It all came to a good end because I'm here today. I was saying, what about wild animals? What about the cold? I know I cannot reach the place where I'm going before it becomes dark and very cold. Thought I had to take refuge under a tree somewhere. And it was not winter, so there was no snow. But see how this is a sannyasi's attitude. If you die, you die. I was very calm, relaxed, and very happy also. At that point, you get a tremendous sense of freedom. Let whatever happen, let's see. And after a little while walking, as it was getting, sunset was coming, suddenly, beep, beep, one car came behind me, a jeep. These people, actually what had happened was there was a landslide, and so all vehicular traffic had been cut off. So no vehicles, except this one jeep which had been stuck on the other side of the landslide. And they decided, after waiting for a few hours, in any case, we can't go back. So let's go further up ahead to Gangotri. They saw me and the driver said, "Come, Mahatma ji, chaloge." So, Sadhu, would you want to come with us? I said, "Of course." And we jumped on the jeep, so I was safe. But this is the attitude. And for me, that was just once. But I've seen sadhus who do that all the time. They sleep under a tree. And if you only know the truth, the next one. The rest will hate and laugh at thee, great one, but pay no heed. Go thou the free. So this is after enlightenment, Jivan Mukta. From place to place and help them out of darkness, Maya's veil. Without the fear of pain or search for pleasure, go beyond them both, sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. Then what about the rest of your life? Thus, beautiful, the last verse, 13th. Thus, day by day, till karma's power spent, release the soul forever. No more is birth, nor I, nor thou, nor God, nor man. The I has all become, the all is I and bliss. Know thou art that, sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. This is something that can be realized in our lives, and we should make it our goal. Sannyasi is a person who has formally made it his or her goal to realize this and do nothing else in life. But all of us who are spiritual seekers, we are here because we are spiritual seekers. Let us internally make it our goal. So we are mumukshus. Internally, we are sannyasi. That attitude should be there. You can see how tremendously freeing it is. It's a very mature attitude towards life. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. There are many other secrets to this poem. Swami Vivekananda has done things there which cannot be revealed in a general audience. Those who have become monks, they know. There are certain vows, certain instructions which are given to monks only, which are not to be revealed. And in the Himalayas, they know, in the villages, and they are scared of it. But there are certain mantras which the sannyasi repeats to become a monk. And that one, so the simple people in the village, they are very afraid of monks because if the belief is, if you hear that, you have to become a monk. Immediately you have to leave your family, your land and everything and put on a cloth and a staff and start walking towards the Himalayas. So they'll be afraid, don't tell me. But those things also Swami Vivekananda has put into this in English. That's all I'm permitted to tell you. Very good. All right. So we'll do an